Did you know that literally 50% of people have some type of hair health insufficiency, HHI, health hair insufficiency, by the time they hit the half century mark, which by the way, I just hit this. And and for me, I'm like, you know what? I don't care about gray hair and wrinkles, but I do want to make sure that I have it healthy if it's changing colors, and it's changing. You can see I have a special mark right here that I have to pay my beautician a lot to do this little silver mark, and I've always had the silver mark. There's a couple things that are really, really important foods to eat to nourish your hair. We're going to talk about how hormones affect hair, and then also how your hair. And here's some of the foods that are really, really important for hair. Now, I think I've got all of this inside of the book, but here is the highlights. Number one, eggs. If you're not allergic to eggs, berries, probably my favorite green thing, spinach, omega-3 rich foods. These are like, salmon, herring, or mackerel, which I have to be honest, I don't remember eating herring or mackerel, but I do. Maybe it's in a supplement, but I love salmon. And then the four other ones: sweet potatoes, avocados, nuts, and beans. And so when we start talking about, hair health, a lot of times what happens is people are kind of doing this malnutrition to the hair follicles. People are not getting those building blocks in, and then what happens is the hair health struggles. And I love the statement. I'm excited to be the first one to kind of to see if you are what you eat. Just want to make sure, like, just ask yourself, are you fast, cheap, and easy? Because one of the hardest things that you can do on your body is not have those foods. And so just because you're getting full from the food doesn't mean that it is a healthy food. So again, let me just list them in order: eggs, berries, strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, etc. A spinach, they're not in order, by the way. Spinach, omega-3 foods like salmon, sweet potatoes, avocados, nuts, and beans. Now, when we talk about how hormones influence this, remember that a chemical messenger that allows the organs to talk to her, by definition, is a hormone. And when we start talking about hormones, everybody starts immediately thinking estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, sexual characteristics, sex drive. Again, it's just a little tiny like page out of the book. Like, sex hormones are just a part of the equation, but everybody immediately goes there. Remember, there's muscle hormones, there's heart hormones, there's liver hormones, thyroid, parathyroid, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals, ovaries, testes, like all of it is associated with it. And we want to make sure that the hormones are healthy. So I believe probably the best way to do a quick insight to your health is to do the Broda Barnes temperature test. And remember how to do this. You get a thermometer. I like the forehead thermometer, the ear thermometer, under the tongue thermometer. You put it on the side of your bed. When you get up in the morning, before you go to the bathroom or go brush your teeth, before you do anything, you take your temperature. Now, the ideal temperature is literally kind of right around 97.7 to 98.3 degrees. The typical temperature range, they always say, is 98.6, but like, everybody has a little bit of variation. One of the best ways to evaluate if you're having hormone dysfunction is to see if you're consistently, in the low 97.1, 97.2, or in the 96s. It means that your body's trying. It's kind of like washing dishes. If you wash them with cold soapy water, it's not effective as hot soapy water. And the endocrinologist, which is a hormone specialist that came up with this, said this, the Broda Barnes temperature test. He said, I think this is the most ideal way to evaluate thyroid hormone. Now, thyroid's right here. It tells everything what to do, right? It's a temperature regulator. It has impact on the heart. This is really, really important for women that are perimenopausal or postmenopausal. So let's kind of go walk through that for a minute, because this is where there's a lot of hormone imbalance and hair loss in females. Is what's happening is we don't have a good transition when the ovaries stop making estrogen and progesterone, either from a natural or surgical menopause. And Julie asked me this in the questions that I see over here. She was saying, hey, you know what? I'm 4 months postpartum and my hair's falling. Like, what should I do? Well, in a weird way, I anticipate at 4 months you're not cycling consistently yet, and so what's happening is we're not getting this hormone signal to the biggest organ in the body, which is the skin, which is where we have all, this dense protein-like structure called hair, and it's fed by the keratinocytes. And we want to make sure that those keratinocytes, one, get all the building blocks that they need. That's why in this program, we were going to talk about hair health and nutrition, like, and how hormones influences that. So the hormones are the signal, and then we got to make sure that the building blocks are there. Maybe a better way to say it is, if we're at a job site and everybody's waiting. If they're building a house and everybody's waiting for the lumber truck to show up, and everybody's there. And I've done some contracting. For a summer, I worked for my uncle's contracting company, and before we have the supplies, everybody's there. We're reading the sports page. We're doing their morning rituals, the coffee, the breakfast burritos, the chatting, the teasing, everything that's happening. And then when the lumber truck shows up, man, all of a sudden there's this hive of work. Well, the supervisors is the hormones telling everybody what to do, and then we got to make sure that we have the building blocks that are coming. Now, in the case of peri and postmenopausal females, what's supposed to happen is there's supposed to be a nice transition where the ovaries literally stop making estrogen and progesterone and luteinizing hormone and follicular stimulating hormone, all these hormones. And what's supposed to happen is the thyroid and the adrenals take over. And then what happens when we have hot flashes is the hot flashes are, it's like the ovaries, it's like a sputtering motor. Like all of a sudden it kind of catches for a little bit and it's making hormones, and then the body has a double hit of hormones, right? And what happens, and that's where those hot flashes come. And that's why if there's any concerns with hormone health, like the best, we got to figure out, well, which hormones are dealing, which is out of balance, and how can we help the transition either from surgery, which would be, a partial or full hysterectomy, or a natural perimenopause, postmenopause. We've got to get the hormones working. So a really good insight to that is to look at your temperature. That's the Broda Barnes temperature test. The next way that I like to evaluate is do that simple blood pressure test. We can evaluate the adrenals where you take your blood pressure lying down. 120 over 80 is ideal. Pulse rate, probably 60 to 70. The range is 60 to 80. And then we want you to stand up. When you stand up, remember your systolic and your diastolic blood pressure should go up 6 to 10 beats. So literally the hormone should tell the heart, mini stress, got to be harder, right? So that the blood doesn't run out of your head. This is why so many times when people under chronic stress and they're tired or they have hormone imbalances where they're like, hey, Dr. West, I'm laying down or I'm sitting down, and if I stand up too quick, I feel a little bit lightheaded. Now, most of the time, people will tell me, I don't really pass out. I just feel like I'm going to pass out. By the way, this is not only for women. Like if men are under chronic stress and they go called through andropause. Andropause is when men make less hormones. They can have the same experience. And so we take your blood pressure lying down, 120 over 80, standing up should be 126 over 86 ideally. Your pulse rate should stay the same. If you can't keep up, if you have hormone insufficiency, the blood pressure or the blood starts to run out of your head, and the body's like, oh, I know what I'll do to adapt. I'll make the pulse rate go faster. So like if you're driving engine, that's like making the RPMs go up. So we rev everything up, right? And then the adrenals get tired, the thyroid gets tired, and then people say, I just feel off. They go in and they get a medical workup, and the doctors will say, well, look, we did a thyroid test and they're fine. Which, by the way, a thyroid test can give you information. It's not the best way to evaluate the thyroid. That's the temperature test. And then with adrenal dysfunction, a lot of times that's saying, okay, well, we can put you on a medication, a beta blocker, a calcium channel blocker, an ACE inhibitor. Like there's all these things to try and help the heart rate not beat so fast. But maybe the answer is we need to do some stress channeling. We can help to make the heart healthier by giving it protein building blocks. And we're going to go over that in just a minute. And then also is we want to help the adrenal glands. So this whole process, if you are deficient in the common hormones like thyroid hormone, adrenal hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, which comes from the pituitary, then it stands to reason that most of your hormones are off.